Welcome to Geology 234. I'm excited to start our very first lab. For this week, all I want to focus on is introducing the software that we will be using the remainder of the semester. And for most of you, if not all of you, it should be just a refresher because the prerequisite for this course is a GIS course, and we're going to be using ArcGIS Pro. But I do want to make sure everyone has an ArcGIS Pro online account. And so that's what the purpose of this lab is today, is to make sure your ArcGIS Pro account is working. So to do that, I'm going to just start ArcPro. And you can follow along with me, or you can watch this and then complete it after. So I'm actually logged in right now. I do also teach at Cal Poly, but I have a Questa account. But for today, I'm just going to start without a template. Normally, I would start a map, and then that would automatically open up a project file and a toolbox, and I could save it, and it'd all have the same name. But for today, I'm just going to do start without a template. And this should look familiar to you all. It's the ArcPro 3.1 version, I believe. And again, if you don't have ArcPro on your computer, or if you don't have an ArcPro account, let me know and I could send information on how to set that up. And so I've just started the ArcPro software, and here's the catalog on the right, which you all should know, and this might be just a refresher for you guys. So by default, I get a project folder, default tool, geodatabase, default toolbox, another folder for the index, and it's just, since I started it without a map template, it's just saved as untitled, which is not a best practice. But for today, I just wanted to quickly open up a map and connect to ArcGIS Online. And you could tell if you're connected to ArcGIS Online up here in the top right, if it says your name, and it would say your ArcGIS Online account username. And then we're also going to just add a new map. So insert new map, and then I'm also going to add data. And in ArcPro, there's always a couple different ways to do one thing. I like to add data using the folders. So I like to have my data downloaded onto the C drive, and then I'll connect to that kind of umbrella folder. But you can also add data with this button if you'd like. Whatever you're used to, whatever you were taught last semester, if you like that, then please feel free to continue that method. But for today, we're actually going to add data from ArcGIS Online. So this is going to be another test to make sure your ArcGIS Online account is up and running. So I'm going to select the Add Data button and then Add Data to Map. Oh, and it's already highlighted, but for some of you, it probably just goes to your computer to add data, or a different drive. But we're actually going to add data from ArcGIS Online. So it's this one under Portal. And then I want to look for Landsat 8. We're going to be working with a lot of imagery from satellites. Landsat 8 is a satellite that I discussed in the lecture. And here is ArcGIS Online public data, and so you can actually click one, and then over here are the more detailed pane for more details. So I can read the metadata on this, and it's the summary will say the imagery in this layer is updated daily. So that's when I know, okay, it's updated daily. It's going to show a lot of current aerial footage. And then there's also different types of Landsat imagery, and we're going to get into this later in the semester, so don't worry too much about that. But let's add the first one. And these files are large, so it takes a while to load and also show up. So, be patient if it doesn't show up right away. And I'm going to just slowly start zooming in. We're going to go to our town, San Luis Obispo. And so it kind of helps if you uncheck the base maps for this large or satellite imagery to load. And there we have Landsat 8 satellite from ArcGIS Online loaded onto our ArcPro. map. So let's take a look at our Landsat imagery, the properties. So go over to the contents pane, right click on Landsat 8, and then select properties. So this is how you can view the metadata for this imagery. And I want to figure out the source because I want to know, is this something that I could further rectify, analyze, or is it just already been rectified and there's not much else I could do? So you could look at the raster information. And so there's already number of bands is just 3. It's image service, generic, unsigned char. So what that means is that this image is not a full analytical Landsat data set. So even though it says Landsat 8, it's just an image service visualization product. So I can't render it further. It's already been rendered into a 3-band composite. We'll learn more about this in lecture, but I just wanted to highlight that you can look at the source and see what information comes with ArcGIS Online layers and whether you can analyze it further. And so, but what you do have is a pre-made image mosaic. So we have something that's easily imported into our map. It's already been made. It's a 3-band RGB rendering only imagery, and it has fixed symbology controlled by the service provider, which you see over here. So we can't toggle bands or do much analysis other than visual interpretation, which is great for some cases. But for today, we're going to do a few more steps. So you can either pause and come back to this activity or continue. Okay, so we want to add another layer. So let's go up to the Add Data button and select Browse. And we're going to add from ArcGIS Online again. Once in the ArcGIS Online portal, please search for the following. It's going to be called Sentinel -2 or -2, 10 meter land cover. And it should pop up even without the land cover. We're going to add it anyways. Okay, and then hit enter. And we're going to add this very first one, imagery layer. Okay, it's from 2022, date modified, April 2026, from ESRI Imagery is the owner. Go ahead and select OK. This could take a little while to load as it's another big file. You could see it's taking some time to add the data, but already it's added some of the layer, and this is showing the different land cover within this area. So we see built area, crops, rangeland, trees. We don't really know where we are, right? So that's why we're going to add one more layer from ArcGIS Online once this loads. And the second layer we're going to add is the California county boundaries. So this will help us distinguish where we are in the world, because right now, we just see a lot of colors, right? So this will help determine where SLO County is. This has taken quite a while. I think I'll pause the video and let this load. Okay, Sentinel-2 has finally loaded. Now I'm going to add the next set of data, which is the California County. So go to ArcGIS Online and then type in California County. And we're going to use the California County boundaries, the first one. It's from CAL FIRE. That should work. Select OK. And again, this may take a second to load, although shouldn't be quite as long. This is finally loaded, but I can't really see it, right? So instead, we're going to change the symbology. So you can either right-click on the layer County Boundaries and select Symbology. And then go ahead over in the right. I'm going to make this pane a little bigger. Click the symbol and then select Properties. And this is where you can change the appearance. So let's make it outline with 2. And then go to this middle layers icon. And then instead of a solid gray, we want it to be, let's do a bright red so we could see it. Okay, and then apply. And I still don't see SLO County. And maybe I need to turn the labels on. Let's label it. Let's do label properties and make sure it's labeling county name. Okay, so that's good. Zoom out a little more so we see all of SLO County. There we go. I was not zoomed out far enough. County's bigger than I thought. There we go. Okay, so with this added vector data of a county boundary, plus our Sentinel raster layer, we can now see the different land cover types within the different county borders. So my question to you is, visual interpretation of satellite imagery identified the most common land cover type in SLO County. Okay, so the examples given would be vegetation. Is it water? Is it agriculture, urban, bare land? So use the county boundary layer to support your observation. And so this short lab activity is just demonstrating how you can use visual interpretation and remote sensing. So not necessarily even getting into the analysis like changing composite bands and raster functions, but instead just visually interpreting via the satellite imagery or other imagery layers like the Sentinel-2. And so both layers are really helpful, but it just depends on what the scope is. So for this Landsat 8-9 views imagery layer that we added, you could clearly see where there's water, where there's urban sprawl. You'd have to zoom in a little bit. Where the mountain ranges are, agricultural blocks, coastline structure, where the urban sprawl is around coastline structure or the bay. So in this way, this image is really helpful. But for the question for today's lab activity, it doesn't really cover the exact land cover type, right? This one is a little more helpful for that. And so this is just an example of how you can add online data, and looking at the source and the properties, you can learn which ones are already rectified. And so the Landsat 8 RGB layer has spectral bands already combined, and the information is quote unquote flattened. So you can't do much analysis with this one. But in this other one, there's bands are preserved and an analysis is possible. Okay, so that wraps up today's short lab activity. I hope you've learned something. If you have questions, please post them on Canvas. And again, we will touch more on this subject matter next week.